Bottom of page 6. I walked out to cross these big, wide corridors I've come to hate, corridors wider than all the Sahara Desert. The Sahara is never empty. These corridors are never empty. You cross the Sahara and you fall. By and by vultures circle around you, smelling, sensing your death. They circle lower and lower. They wait. They know. They know exactly when the flesh is ready, when the spirit cannot fight back. The poor are always crossing the Sahara, and the lawyers and bondsmen and all that crowd circle the poor, exactly like vultures. Of course, they're not any richer than the poor, really. That's why they've turned into vultures, scavengers, indecent garbage men. And I'm talking about the black cats, too, who, in so many ways, are worse. I think that personally I would be ashamed. But I've had to think about it, and now I think that maybe not. I don't know what I wouldn't do to get Fawny out of jail. I've never come across any shame down here, except shame like mine, except the shame of the hard-working black ladies who call me daughter, and the shame of proud Puerto Ricans who don't understand what's happening, no one who speaks to them in Spanish, for example, and who are ashamed that they have loved ones in jail. But they are wrong to be ashamed. The people responsible for these jails should be ashamed. And I'm not ashamed of Fawny. If anything, I'm proud. He's a man. You can tell by the way he's taken all this shit that he's a man. Sometimes I admit I'm scared because nobody can take the shit they throw on us forever. But then you just have to somehow fix your mind to get from one day to the next. If you think too far ahead, if you even try to think too far ahead, you'll never make it. Sometimes I take the subway home. Sometimes I take the bus. Today I took the bus because it takes a little longer, and I had a lot on my mind. Being in trouble can have a funny effect on the mind. I don't know if I can explain this. You go through some days, and you seem to be hearing people, and you seem to be talking to them, and you seem to be doing your work, or at least your work is getting done, but you haven't seen or heard a soul, and if someone asked you what you have done that day, you'd have to think a while before you could answer. But at the same time, and even on the self-same day, and this is what is hard to explain, you see people like you never saw them before. They shine as bright as a razor. Maybe it's because you see people differently than you saw them before your trouble started. Maybe you wonder about them more, but in a different way, and this makes them very strange to you. Maybe you get scared and numb, because you don't know if you can depend on people for anything anymore. And even if they wanted to do something, what could they do? I can't say to anybody in this bus, look, Fawny is in trouble, he's in jail. Can you imagine what anybody on this bus would say to me if they knew, from my mouth, that I left somebody in jail? And I know he's never committed any crime, and he's a beautiful person. Please help me get him out. Can you imagine what anybody on this bus would say? What would you say? I can't say, I'm going to have this baby, and I'm scared, too, and I don't want anything to happen to my baby's father. Don't let him die in prison. Please, oh please. You can't say that. That means you can't really say anything. Trouble means you're alone. You sit down and you look out the window, and you wonder if you're going to spend the rest of your life going back and forth on this bus. And if you do, what's going to happen to your baby? What's going to happen to Fawny? And if you ever did like the city, you don't like it anymore. If I ever get out of this, if we ever get out of this, I swear I'll never set foot in downtown New York again. Maybe I used to like it, a long time ago, when Daddy used to bring me and Sis here, and we'd watch the people and the buildings, and Daddy would point out different sights to us, and we might stop in Battery Park and have ice cream and hot dogs. Those were great days, and we were always very happy, but that was because of our Father, not because of the city. It was because we knew our Father loved us. Now, I can say, because I certainly know it now, the city didn't. They looked at us as though we were zebras, and, some people like zebras and some people don't, but nobody ever asks the zebra. It's true that I haven't seen much of other cities, only Philadelphia and Albany, but I swear that New York must be the ugliest and the dirtiest city in the world. It must have the ugliest buildings and the nastiest people. It's got to have the worst cops. If any place is worse, it's got to be so close to hell that you can smell the people frying. And come to think of it, that's exactly the smell of New York in the summertime. I met Fonny in the streets of this city. I was little. He was not so little. I was around 6, somewhere around there, and he was around 9. They lived across the street, him and his family, his mother and 2 older sisters, and his father. And his father ran a tailor shop. Looking back now, I kind of wonder who he ran the tailor shop for. We didn't know anybody who had money to take clothes to the tailor. Well, maybe once in a great while. But I don't think we could have kept him in business. Of course, as I've been told, colored people, weren't as poor then as they had been when my mama and daddy were trying to get it together. They weren't as poor then as we had been in the South. But we were certainly poor enough, and we still are. I never really noticed Fonny until once we got into a fight after school. This fight didn't really have anything to do with Fonny and me at all. I had a girlfriend named Geneva, a kind of loud, raunchy girl with her hair plaited tight on her head, with big ashy knees and long legs and big feet. And she was always into something. Naturally, she was my best friend, since I was never into anything. I was skinny and scared, and so I followed her and got into all her shit. Nobody else wanted me, really, and you know that nobody else wanted her. Well, she said that she couldn't stand Fonny. Every time she looked at him, it just made her sick. She was always telling me how ugly he was, with skin just like raw, wet potato rinds, and eyes like a Chinaman, and all that nappy hair and them thick lips. And so bow-legged he had bunions on his ankle bones, and the way his behind stuck out, his mother must have been a gorilla. I agreed with her because I had to, but I didn't really think he was as bad as all that. I kind of liked his eyes, and, to tell the truth, I thought that if people in China had eyes like that, I wouldn't mind going to China. I had never seen a gorilla, so his behind looked perfectly normal to me, and wasn't really, when you had to think about it, as big as Geneva's. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that he was, yes, a little bow-legged. But Geneva was always up in Fonny's face. I don't think he ever noticed her at all. He was always too busy with his friends, who were the worst boys on the block. They were always coming down the street in rags, bleeding, full of lumps, and just before this fight, Fonny had lost a tooth.